Welcome, believers. Welcome, you wonderfully weird people. Welcome to UFO Aliens and Weird Stuff. Right now, today we are going to be talking about the mystery of Captain William Schaffner. Right? Was it pilot error or something more out of this world? Possibly even an alien abduction case. Now, this story is a little bit strange. And I will tell you it, and then you can make your mind up from there, okay? In 1970, during the height of the Cold War era, right, RAF Captain William Schaffner was scrambled to intercept an unidentified object over the North Sea. His aircraft was later recovered largely intact, but Captain Schaffner was never found. Now, with radar tracking across multiple countries, eyewitness sightings along the east coast of Britain, and reports of strange aerial objects behaving beyond known technology. And it did happen, right? There were cases out there. This case remains one of the most mysterious aviation incidents in UK history. Now, was it pilot error or something more? Welcome to UFO Aliens and Weird Stuff, right? Now, the night of September the 8th, 1970, at the height of the Cold War, a pilot was sent to intercept an unidentified object over the North Sea. His aircraft would later be found, but weirdly enough, Captain William Schaffner was never seen again. Right now, during this period, as you can imagine, the 1970s, NATO forces across Europe are on constant alert. You know, the Soviet aircraft regularly tested Western defences, probing radar systems and measuring response times. Every day, fighter crews along the east coast of Britain stood waiting, prepared to intercept anything that entered their airspace. But alongside this tension, there was another less understood problem. And it wasn't less understood, let's face it, right? It was well understood. Aerial phenomena, UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them, they were buzzing the eastern coast around that time, right? Unidentified objects appeared on radar, behaving in ways that no aircraft should. Now, on that night, radar stations across multiple locations detected unusual activity. Targets appeared over the North Sea, then vanished, reappearing again moments later. Some reports suggest speeds far beyond conventional aircrafts. Pilots scrambled to intercept, but each time they approached, the object accelerated away. Now, I'm not too sure if that little bit that the object's accelerated away is related to this story, but we know that it happens all the time. And along the east coast of Britain at the time, reports of unusual activity were not limited to radar alone, right? Especially in the 70s. In South Shields near Tyndall, a family reported witnessing 3 triangular-shaped objects in the night sky. A uniformed police officer visiting the home at the time saw them too. The objects appeared to fly in formation before slowly hovering above the area. Now, they were described as extremely bright and difficult to look at. For nearly 30 minutes, they remained visible before finally moving off in the direction of Newcastle. In Tynemouth, another police constable on duty encountered something similar while driving alongside Tynemouth Road. He noticed a bright circular object hovering above the flats. He pulled into a nearby car park to observe it more closely, and for several minutes it remained completely still in the sky. Then, without warning, it shot upwards vertically at incredible speed and vanished from sight. Now, just a few years later, in the early hours of 1973, the same officer experienced something even more unusual. While driving along Tyne Tunnel Road, a bright light appeared alongside his vehicle. Now, weirdly, it matched his speed precisely. When he slowed, it slowed. When he stopped, it hovered silently, approximately 150 yards away. And he says as he continued driving, The object moved ahead of him, leading him north towards Seaton Burns. Now, at the flyover, he stopped again. He says the object hovered over the A1, moving back and forth for several minutes before turning north and disappearing. Another officer later confirmed seeing the same object. Now, these sightings, they're not observed just by the public, but by trained police officers on duty. So, unidentified objects appearing along the very coastline where Captain Schaffner would make his final approach. I thought they were important to add to the story. Now, Captain William Schaffner, a 28-year-old American pilot serving with the Royal Air Force, was assigned to intercept one of these targets, flying a BAC Lightning Interceptor. He took off from RAF Pinbrook under the call sign Foxtrot 94. Now, guided by radar, he moved towards a contact approximately 90 miles out over the sea. Now, according to later accounts, Schaffner reported visual contact. He said he saw a bright bluish object, so intense he struggled to look directly at it. Now, some reports suggest a second object nearby described as larger, almost glass-like in appearance. Then, his final transmission, right? Now, this is what he said, apparently. He said, the object is moving right at me and I'm trying to evade, and then contact was lost immediately afterwards. It sounds like he was going to say, I'm trying to evade, but he never got that far. Now, on radar, his aircraft appeared to emerge briefly with the unknown object before both disappeared. Weird, right? Search operations began quickly, but the North Sea gave nothing back. Days passed with nothing, all right? Nothing was found. Weeks passed with nothing was found. And eventually, the aircraft was located on the seabed. And this is where the story gets weird. Up to this point, you could say it was anything. You know, it was Russian. It was a Russian aircraft. It was a test aircraft for something else. But this gets weird because the aircraft was largely intact when they found it. The cockpit was sealed. The canopy was still closed. But Captain Schaffner was not inside. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? The aircraft was largely intact. The cockpit was sealed. The canopy was still closed. Where did he go? If something unknown was operating that night, if what he was chasing was an unidentified flying object, and if Schaffner reached it, right, and came right up close, then his disappearance might not have been an accident at all. It may have been a close encounter. Now, the mystery of Captain William Schaffner remains unsolved, and for some, as you can imagine, the possibility of an alien abduction still lingers beneath the surface. What do you think? Now, I know this is a short and sweet story, but I will elaborate. All right, the plane was largely intact. The cockpit was sealed, but he wasn't inside. I mean, if he would have injected, you know, say if he come across something and he had to eject from the plane, then as far as I know, you have to remove the cockpit. That would have gone and he'd have flown out, wouldn't he? Right, and if he'd have hit the sea and managed to get out, but sadly drowned, and I do mean sadly drowned, he was only 28, right? If he'd have sadly drowned, then the cockpit will still be open. With the cockpit closed, you wouldn't get out and put the cockpit back, would you? You'd swim to safety. I mean, if you ejected from the plane, you wouldn't say, oh, hang on a minute, Mr. Parachute, I want to put my cockpit back. You just would not do that. Where did he go? You know, now there are rumours in UFO stories, isn't there, that these beings, these entities, they can walk through walls. Now, I'm not saying, yeah, I am believing that. Yeah, I am believing that. Apparently, they can phase through walls. When alien abduction stories happen, right? It is known that these things appear from nowhere in victims' bedrooms. What would be terrifying? So was he lifted out his plane, cockpit in place? Well, you decide for that. This is your story. Me, I find this story fascinating. All right, so this was UFO, aliens and weird stuff. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you can. Ding that notification bell, and that would be fantastic. And I will catch you next week for my ghost story, what's all about the Skidard Inn. So please follow my YouTube channel, and I'll catch you next week. See you soon.